The great chamber of the Galactic Council had not known silence like this in 10,000 years. 12 species sat in their designated seats, their representatives frozen in place as the message repeated on every screen. High Counselor gripped the arms of his chair so hard that his scaled fingers left marks in the ancient wood. "Play it again," he commanded, though his voice barely rose above a whisper. The communications officer, a small with trembling hands, touched the console. The message filled the chamber once more. It was simple, spoken in perfect galactic common, and it shattered everything they believed to be true. "This is Captain Daniel Cole of the human vessel Horizon's Edge. We are emerging from the region you designated as the isolation zone. We request an audience with the Galactic Council. We have much to discuss." The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded military response. Others called for immediate evacuation of border worlds. Ambassador of the delegation sat quietly in his seat, watching the panic spread like fire through dry grass. He had warned them. 50 years ago, he had warned them all. High Counselor raised his hand, and slowly the noise died down. His yellow eyes swept across the assembly, seeing fear on every face. Good. They should be afraid. They had done something terrible half a century ago, and now the consequences had arrived. "How is this possible?" demanded Admiral, the military commander of the Council fleet. His massive body shifted in his reinforced seat, claws scratching against metal. "Nothing survives the isolation zone. We sent monitoring probes for 10 years. Every single one was destroyed within days. The humans should be dead. They should have been dead within the first cycle." "And yet they are not," said softly. Every eye turned to him. "I told you 50 years ago that humans were different. I told you that exiling them was a mistake. You did not listen." Felt old memories rise up like ghosts. He remembered the day the Council had voted on humanity's fate. The young species had only achieved faster-than-light travel 7 years before first contact. In those 7 years, they had spread to 30 worlds. They had reverse-engineered Council technology and improved upon it. They had solved scientific problems that had puzzled older species for centuries. They were too fast, too adaptable, too hungry for knowledge and growth. The Council had watched younger species rise before, but never like this. Humanity did not follow the normal path of development. They leaped ahead, skipping stages that took other species thousands of years. Fear had spread through the Council like a disease. What would humans become in 100 years? 1,000? Would they dominate the galaxy? Would they see the older species as obstacles to remove? The solution had seemed perfect at the time. They fabricated evidence that humanity had violated sacred territorial laws. The punishment was exile to the Void Nebula, a region of dead space at the edge of the galaxy. It was filled with gravitational anomalies that tore ships apart, radiation storms that fried electronics and flesh alike, and worst of all, the creatures that lived in the darkness. The Hollow Ones, they were called, though no one truly knew what they were. Every species that had ever entered the Void Nebula had died. Every probe, every ship, every colony attempt. The Council had not voted for exile. They had voted for execution. They simply lacked the courage to call it what it was. Remembered the human ambassador's face when the sentence was announced. She had not screamed or begged or threatened. She had simply looked at each Council member in turn, her strange, soft eyes meeting theirs, and then she had nodded once. "We understand," she had said. "We will go quietly." That response had disturbed more than any threat could have. Humans did not fight when they were cornered. They did not rage against their fate. They simply accepted it and walked into the darkness. All human vessels and colonies had been relocated into the Void Nebula within 1 year. The Council had posted warning beacons around the entire region, declaring it forbidden space. They sent monitoring probes to track humanity's extinction. For 10 years, the probes sent back images of human ships struggling against the anomalies. They watched human colonies fail as radiation poisoned their crops and their children. They recorded distress calls that grew weaker and more desperate with each passing month. And then, one by one, the probes went dark, destroyed by the same forces that were killing humanity. After 10 years of silence, the Council had declared humanity extinct. There had been no celebration. Even those who had voted for exile felt the weight of what they had done. They had murdered an entire species because they were afraid of what that species might become. Now, 50 years later, a human ship had emerged from the darkness, and it was requesting an audience. "We should destroy them immediately," Admiral growled, "before they can report back to any others who might have survived. One ship we can handle. If there are more, we need to strike now." "And if there are more," asked, "if destroying this ship brings a fleet down upon us, what then, Admiral?" Had no answer. High Counselor made his decision. He was old now, far older than he had been when he cast his vote for humanity's exile. He had lived with that guilt for 50 years. Perhaps it was time to face what they had done. "We will meet with them," he announced. "Admiral, you will take a fleet to the border, not to attack but to escort. We will bring these humans to the Council and hear what they have to say." "This is madness," protested. "They will want revenge, they will want blood." Looked at the message still displayed on the screens. "We have much to discuss. Not we have come for vengeance. Not we will make you pay. Just a simple request for conversation." "Perhaps," said slowly, "but I do not think so. Humans are strange creatures, Admiral. They do not react as we expect. They never have." He paused, feeling the weight of 50 years pressing down on his shoulders. "That is why we feared them in the first place." The Council chamber fell silent again as representatives considered what was coming. They had sent humanity into the darkness to die. Humanity had returned. And somehow, that calm message was more terrifying than any declaration of war could ever be. Ambassador allowed himself a small smile. He had always known this day would come. Humans were survivors. It was their greatest strength and the reason the Council had been right to fear them. But fear had led to cruelty, and cruelty had consequences. The Galactic Council was about to learn what those consequences would be. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the edge of the isolation zone through the main viewport. 300 warships floated behind him, the largest fleet assembled in Council space in over a century. Every weapon was charged. Every crew member was ready for battle. And yet, as the human vessel emerged from the swirling darkness of the Void Nebula, felt something he had not experienced in his long military career. He felt afraid. The horizon's edge did not look like any ship in Council records. Human vessels from 50 years ago had been crude things, functional but ugly, built by a species that had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. This ship was different. Its hull seemed to shift and shimmer like liquid metal. Sensor beams bounced off its surface without returning any data. It moved through space with a grace that should have been impossible for a vessel of its size. "Admiral," his sensor officer reported, voice shaking, "we cannot scan the vessel. Our instruments show nothing. It is as if the ship does not exist." Gripped the railing in front of him. "Impossible. Increase power to sensors. Use every frequency we have." "We have tried, Admiral. The ship absorbs everything we send at it. We are completely blind." The human vessel came to a stop 1,000 kilometers from the Council fleet. It simply waited there, silent and patient, making no aggressive moves. Somehow, that made it worse. A communication request came through. Accepted it, and a human face appeared on the main screen. The man was perhaps 50 years old by human standards, with gray hair cut short and calm brown eyes. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations or medals. When he spoke, his voice was quiet and steady. "Admiral, I am Captain Daniel Cole of the Horizon's Edge. Thank you for meeting us. I request permission to come aboard your vessel with my science officer. We have information the Council will want to hear." studied the human's face, looking for signs of anger or hatred. He found none. The man looked like he was discussing a trade agreement, not confronting the species that had tried to murder his people. "You will come unarmed," said. "You will submit to search. Any sign of aggression and my fleet will open fire." Captain Cole smiled slightly. "Of course, Admiral, we expected nothing less." 20 minutes later, 2 humans materialized in the flagship's main hangar. Every weapon in the room pointed at them instantly. Captain Cole stood calmly, hands visible at his sides. Beside him was a woman in her 40s with short dark hair and intelligent eyes. She carried a small data device and nothing else. "This is Dr. Lisa Grant," Cole said, gesturing to his companion. "She is our chief science officer. She has information that will explain much." Stepped forward, towering over the humans. His species, stood nearly 3 meters tall and were built like walking tanks. He had killed enemies with his bare claws. He had led fleets into battle against hostile empires. He had never felt intimidated by a smaller creature. Until now. There was something in Cole's eyes, not anger, not fear, something deeper and stranger. The human had walked through 50 years of darkness and he had emerged unchanged. No, not unchanged. Transformed. "How did you survive?" demanded. "The isolation zone has killed every species that entered it. The gravitational anomalies alone should have torn your ships apart within months." "They nearly did," Cole admitted. "In the first year, we lost 60% of our population, ships crushed by gravity wells, colonies destroyed by radiation storms, children dying from diseases we could not treat." He paused, and for just a moment something flickered in his eyes. Pain, perhaps, memory. It was the worst time in human history. "Then how are you still alive?" Dr. Grant stepped forward, holding up her data device. "May I show you, Admiral?" Nodded, and she projected an image into the air between them. It showed the Void Nebula, but not as Council maps depicted it. The swirling chaos was marked with paths and routes, safe passages through the deadly region. "We learned to read the patterns," Grant explained. "The gravitational anomalies are not random. They follow cycles like tides on an ocean world. Once we understood the cycles, we could navigate safely. The radiation storms taught us to build better shielding. Within 5 years, we had adapted to everything the isolation zone could throw at us." "And the Hollow Ones?" asked, remembering the nightmarish creatures that had destroyed every probe sent into the region. "Those monsters have killed millions. How did you survive them?" Cole and Grant exchanged a look. Something passed between them, some shared knowledge that made scales itch with unease. "The Hollow Ones are not monsters," Cole said softly. "They are guardians. They were placed in the isolation zone to protect something precious. Every species that entered with violence in their hearts was destroyed, but we came with nothing except a desperate need to survive. We were not a threat. We were refugees, and the Hollow Ones recognized that." "They helped you," could not keep the disbelief from his voice. "They tested us first. For years they watched and waited. They saw how we treated each other in the darkness. They saw us share our food when there was not enough. They saw us sacrifice so that others could live, and eventually they decided we were worthy." Grant changed the projection. Now it showed something that made step backward in shock. Human ships flying alongside creatures of shadow and light, working together, building together. "The Hollow Ones became our allies," Grant said, "and they shared their knowledge with us. Knowledge that the Galactic Council has kept hidden for 10,000 years. Felt his heart's beating faster. "What knowledge?" Cole met his eyes steadily. "The truth about the isolation zone, Admiral. It was not created by natural forces. It was created by the Council's ancestors, thousands of years ago, to serve as a prison. Your species and 11 others rose to power by trapping your own creators in a cage of warped space and engineered horrors." The hangar was completely silent. Every soldier, every officer, stared at the humans with expressions ranging from disbelief to dawning horror. You committed genocide against the ones who gave you everything, Cole continued. And then you buried the truth so deep that no one remembered until we found it. Opened his mouth, but no words came out. His entire understanding of galactic history was crumbling. The Council was supposed to be the rightful rulers of civilized space. They were supposed to be the wise elders who guided younger species. They were murderers, just like they had tried to murder humanity. We have not come for revenge, Cole said, and his voice was gentle now, almost kind. We have come to show you what we learned in the darkness. We have come to offer something the Council never expected. What? Managed to ask. Cole smiled, and there was no malice in it, only patience and perhaps a little sadness. A second chance. High Counselor walked through the forbidden archives beneath the Council chambers. The corridors here were older than any living memory, carved from stone that predated faster-than-light travel. No one had entered these halls in centuries. The knowledge stored here was considered too dangerous for any species to possess. Historian shuffled beside him, her ancient body wrapped in robes that smelled of dust and forgotten years. She was the last keeper of the forbidden archives, a position passed down through generations of her species. Her eyes, clouded with age, still held a sharp intelligence that made uncomfortable. You knew, said, it was not a question. You knew what we did to the architects. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. I am the keeper of secrets, High Counselor. It is my duty to know. It has always been my burden to carry the truth while others lived in comfortable ignorance. They stopped before a massive door, sealed with locks that required genetic samples from 12 different species to open. The Council's founders had designed it that way, ensuring that no single species could access what lay beyond. It had taken 3 days to gather the necessary representatives, and even then, most did not know what they were unlocking. The door slid open, revealing a chamber filled with light. Artifacts floated in suspension fields, each one stranger than the last. Technology so advanced it looked like magic. Records written in languages that no translator could decipher. And at the center of it all, a holographic display showing a species that had been erased from history. The architects. They looked almost human, realized with a chill. Tall and graceful, with features that suggested wisdom and kindness. They had created all 12 founding species of the Galactic Council, lifting them from primitive existence and teaching them the secrets of the stars. And their children had repaid them with imprisonment and death. Why? Asked, staring at the frozen image of an architect. Why did our ancestors turn against them? Moved to a console and activated another display. Records began to play, ancient voices speaking in languages that the translation system struggled to interpret. The architects announced that their work was complete, explained. They said that their children had grown strong enough to stand alone. They planned to leave this galaxy and seed life elsewhere, but some of our ancestors did not want them to go. They feared that without the architects, the younger species would turn on each other. Others feared that the architects would return one day and judge them unworthy. And still others simply wanted the architects' power for themselves. The display showed images of war, ships burning, worlds dying. The 12 species united against their creators, using the very technology the architects had given them. They could not kill the architects directly, continued. The architects were too powerful, too advanced. So they created the Void Nebula, a prison of warped space and temporal distortions. They engineered the Hollow Ones to serve as guards, creatures of pure energy that would destroy anyone who tried to enter or exit. And they sealed the architects inside. Felt sick. His entire civilization was built on a foundation of betrayal and murder. Did the architects die? Unknown. The records suggest that the architects transcended physical form rather than perish. They became something else, something that exists outside normal space and time. Their knowledge remained, waiting for a species worthy of inheriting it. Turned to face directly. The hollow ones were not guards against escape. They were guardians protecting that knowledge. They were testing every species that entered, waiting for one that matched the architect's values. And humans passed the test, said slowly. Humans did not just pass. They exceeded every expectation. The hollow ones have shared more with humanity in 50 years than they shared with any species in 10,000. The humans now possess technology that makes our most advanced weapons look like children's toys. Turned away from the display, mind racing. The humans could destroy the Council fleet without effort. They could conquer the entire galaxy if they chose. They had every reason to seek vengeance for what had been done to them. But Captain Cole had asked only for human historical records and cultural artifacts. He had offered a second chance instead of a death sentence. I do not understand, admitted. If I had been exiled to die, if I had lost 60% of my people in the darkness, I would want blood. I would want to make those responsible suffer as I had suffered. Why do the humans not want the same? Smiled, and for a moment she looked almost young. That is the question, is it not? I have studied humanity since before the exile, High Counselor. I warned the Council that humans were different, just as Ambassador did. I was ignored, just as he was. Different how? Humans evolved on a world of constant change. Predators, climate shifts, natural disasters. They learned that survival requires adaptation, not dominance. They learned that cooperation produces better results than conquest. And most importantly, they learned that holding onto hatred is a poison that destroys the one who holds it. She gestured at the forbidden archives around them. Our ancestors acted from fear and greed. Humans have just as much capacity for those emotions, perhaps more, but they also have something our ancestors lacked: the ability to choose a different path, even when anger would be justified. A communication signal interrupted them. Answered it to find Admiral's face on the screen. The Admiral looked shaken in a way that had never seen before. High Counselor, the humans have shared data with us. Historical records, scientific analyses, everything they found in the isolation zone. They are not keeping any of it secret. They want us to know the truth. What else, Admiral? There is something in your eyes. Swallowed hard. They have also informed us that there are 200 human vessels in the isolation zone, full crews, advanced technology. The hollow ones consider them allies, not prisoners. If we attack, we will face a force that could destroy everything the Council has built in a single day. Nodded slowly. This was the moment he had feared for 50 years, the moment when the consequences of their actions finally arrived. And what do they want in return for not destroying us? His expression shifted to something like wonder. They want to help us, High Counselor. They want to share what they learned. They say that the galaxy has been sick for 10,000 years, poisoned by secrets and fear. They want to help us heal. Looked at, the old historian was weeping silently, tears running down her wrinkled face. All these years, she whispered, all these of guilt and secrets, and it took the species we tried to murder to finally offer us redemption. Made his decision. It was time to face what the Council had done. It was time to tell the truth, no matter how painful. Call a full assembly, he commanded. Every species, every representative. It is time for the Galactic Council to learn its true history, and it is time to decide if we are worthy of the second chance humanity is offering. Commander Peters sat at his station aboard the horizon's edge, watching the Council fleet through sensors that could detect things no alien technology could perceive. 50 years of development in the isolation zone had given humanity advantages that the Council could not imagine. They could see energy signatures, thought patterns, even the emotional states of the beings on those 300 warships. Right now, those emotional states were shifting from fear to something darker. Captain, Peters said quietly, Admiral's ships are charging weapons, power levels increasing across the entire fleet. Captain Daniel Cole did not look up from his data pad. He had been reviewing the latest reports from the human colonies in the sanctuary, as they now called the isolation zone. 2 million humans called that region home now, living in harmony with the Hollow Ones and the strange energies that had nearly killed them all 50 years ago. Expected, Cole said. The Admiral is afraid, and afraid people often attack what they do not understand. What is the Hollow One's status? Ready and waiting, they know what is coming. Dr. Lisa Grant entered the bridge, her expression troubled. Daniel, I just finished analyzing the Council's communication traffic. There are 2 factions forming. High Counselor is calling for a full assembly to reveal the truth about the architects, but Admiral and his supporters want to destroy us before that can happen. They are afraid that the truth will destroy the Council's authority. They are not wrong to be afraid, Cole acknowledged. Learning that your entire civilization is built on genocide tends to shake people's faith in their leadership. Engineer Bate Turner looked up from her console. Captain, if they fire on us, we can absorb everything they throw at us without damage. Our shields are operating at full capacity, but the Hollow Ones are getting restless. They do not like being threatened. Cole finally stood, walking to the main viewport. The Council fleet hung in space before them, weapons glowing with deadly energy. 300 ships against 1. To any outside observer, the outcome would seem certain. Cole knew better. He had seen what the Hollow Ones could do. He had watched them disassemble warships with a thought, convert hostile energy into harmless light, reach across vast distances to protect their human allies. The Council fleet was not a threat. It was a test. All hands, Cole said, his voice carrying through the ship's intercom. This is the captain. The Council fleet is preparing to attack. We will not fire back. We will not retaliate. We will show them what humanity learned in the darkness. We learned that strength is not found in weapons or destruction. It is found in the choice to be better than those who hurt us. The bridge crew nodded. They had all lived through the exile. They had all lost friends and family in those terrible first years. They had all felt the temptation to hate, to seek revenge, to make the Council pay for what they had done. And they had all chosen a different path. Admiral's voice crackled over the communication channel. Human vessel, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Cole activated the response channel. Admiral, we both know that your fleet cannot harm us. We both know that if we chose to fight, your ships would be destroyed in moments. But we did not come here for war. We came here to talk, to share, to help. You came here to weaken us with lies about the architects. You came here to destroy the Council from within. We came here to tell the truth. What the Council does with that truth is up to you. Cut the channel. Seconds later, the fleet opened fire. 300 warships unleashed their full arsenal against the horizon's edge. Plasma bolts, particle beams, nuclear missiles, everything the Council's military had developed over of warfare. The barrage would have destroyed a planet. It struck the human vessel and simply stopped. The energy was absorbed into the ship's hull like water into sand. The missiles detonated harmlessly against shields that existed in dimensions the Council did not know about. The horizon's edge sat motionless, untouched, unmoved. And then the shadows came. The Hollow Ones emerged from the ship's hull, flowing outward like living darkness. Hundreds of them, perhaps thousands, spreading through space toward the Council fleet. They did not attack. They did not destroy. They simply surrounded each ship, their incomprehensible forms pressing against hulls and viewports. Panic spread through the fleet. Ships tried to flee, but the Hollow Ones were everywhere. Some crews abandoned their posts. Others prayed to gods they had not believed in for centuries. Admiral stood frozen on his bridge, watching creatures from Nightmare flow past his viewport. Cole broadcast to the entire fleet. We could destroy you all. Right now, in this moment, we could end the Galactic Council forever. The Hollow Ones could consume your ships and your crews, and no one would ever know what happened here. He paused, letting the words sink in. Every being in the fleet was listening. Every heart was racing with terror. But we will not do that, because that is not who we are. Humanity spent 50 years in darkness, surrounded by death and despair. We had every reason to become monsters. We had every excuse to let hatred consume us. But we chose differently. We chose to remember that the species who exiled us acted from fear, not malice. We chose to believe that understanding is stronger than vengeance. The Hollow Ones began to withdraw, pulling back from the Council ships. They flowed around the horizon's edge, forming patterns of light and shadow that held meanings only humans could understand. Admiral, High Counselor, all species of the Galactic Council, we offer you a choice. You can continue to live in fear, hiding from truths that threaten your power. You can attack us again and again and again until you finally accept that violence will not solve this problem. Or you can listen. You can learn. You can grow. Ambassador's voice came over the channel, broadcast from the council chambers far away. I stand with humanity. I always believed they were different. I always believed they would surprise us. And I was right. The communication channels exploded with voices. Representatives from 6 different species announced their support for hearing the humans out. Others demanded continued resistance. The council was fracturing, exactly as Cole had hoped. The truth is coming, Cole said softly. Historian is preparing to broadcast the hidden history to every world in council space. You cannot stop it. You can only decide how you will respond when your people learn what their ancestors did. Admiral finally found his voice. Why? Why are you doing this? We tried to kill you. We condemned your entire species to death. Why would you offer us anything but hatred? Cole thought about the question. He thought about his parents, who had died in the first year of exile. He thought about the friends he had buried, the children who never got a chance to grow up, the screaming nightmares that still haunted his sleep. Because hatred is a prison, Admiral. We spent 50 years in one prison already. We do not intend to build another. The council fleet stood down. The Hollow Ones faded back into the darkness between stars. And across the galaxy, screens began to light up with the truth that had been hidden for 10,000 years. The real confrontation was about to begin. 1 week had passed since the truth broadcast. 1 week since every species in the Galactic Council learned that their civilization was built on betrayal and murder. 1 week since the foundations of galactic society began to crack. The council chambers were only half full. 3 species had withdrawn entirely, their representatives returning home to deal with civil unrest. 2 more had declared neutrality, refusing to participate in any further council business until new leadership was established. The remaining 7 sat in uncomfortable silence, waiting for High Counselor to speak. Captain Daniel Cole stood at the center of the chamber, in the same spot where the human ambassador had received her death sentence 50 years ago. He wore the same simple uniform. His expression held the same quiet calm, but everything else had changed. High Counselor, Cole said, breaking the silence, I understand that these have been difficult days. The truth is never easy to accept, especially when it reveals that those we trusted were capable of terrible things. Looked old, older than he had looked a week ago. The weight of 10,000 years of hidden history pressed down on his shoulders, and it showed in every line of his face. You have destroyed us, he said, but there was no anger in his voice, only exhaustion. The council will never recover from this. The trust that held our alliance together is gone. The trust was built on lies, Cole replied gently. It was going to crumble eventually. We simply accelerated the process. And what do you propose we do now? Our fleets are in disarray. Our populations are rioting. Half the galaxy believes we should be punished for what our ancestors did. Cole smiled slightly. That is exactly what I came here to discuss. He gestured, and Dr. Lisa Grant stepped forward with a holographic projector. The image that appeared showed a star system that the Council had declared dead centuries ago. A dying sun surrounded by lifeless worlds, the remnants of a civilization destroyed in the ancient wars against the architects. The system, Grant explained, one of the first casualties of the war 10,000 years ago. The species that lived there tried to help the architects escape. Your ancestors burned their worlds as punishment. The Council representatives shifted uncomfortably. Another crime to add to the list. We have technology that can restore it, Grant continued. The architects left behind knowledge that can heal dying stars, terraform dead worlds, even reverse the genetic damage caused by ancient weapons. We can bring the system back to life. Stared at her. That is impossible. No technology can revive a dead star. Your technology cannot. Ours can. The Hollow Ones showed us things that your scientists would consider magic, and we are offering to share it. In exchange for what? Admiral asked suspiciously. He had been stripped of his command after the failed attack, but he still held a seat in the Council as a military advisor. What do humans want in return? Cole turned to face him directly. Nothing. 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 We do not want territory. We do not want power. We do not want positions in your government or control over your fleets. We want only one thing, Admiral, and it is something you cannot give us. What is that? We want the galaxy to be better than it was. We want the mistakes of the past to stay in the past. We want species to work together instead of fearing each other. We want children to grow up without learning hatred. Cole paused. We want what the architects wanted before your ancestors betrayed them. The chamber was silent. Ambassador rose from his seat, his features bright with emotion. High Counselor, I have known Captain Cole for 1 week. I have studied humanity for 60 years. I believe him. Humans are not like us. They do not think in terms of advantage and profit. They think in terms of right and wrong, of helping and hurting. They have every reason to destroy us, and they are offering to heal us instead. Looked around the chamber. He saw fear on some faces, hope on others, and confusion on most. The old order was dying. Something new was being born. What exactly are you proposing, Captain Cole? Cole walked to the center of the chamber, turning slowly to address every representative. A joint mission, human vessels and council vessels working together. We will go to the system and restore it. We will prove that the technology works, that cooperation is possible, that the future does not have to look like the past. He met's eyes. And we will show the galaxy that the species who were exiled to die have chosen to bring life instead. The vote was not unanimous. Admiral and 2 others voted against the proposal, arguing that it was a trap, that humanity was playing a longer game, that no species would truly offer help without expecting something in return. But 7 species voted yes. 7 species chose to believe that something had emerged from the darkness of the isolation zone that was worth trusting. 3 months later, the first joint fleet departed for the system. 50 human vessels flew alongside 100 council ships, their crews working together, learning from each other, slowly building the bonds of trust that had been impossible before. Captain Cole stood on the observation deck of the horizon's edge, watching the dead star grow larger in the viewport. Pilot Sam Harrison stood beside him, the young man who had guided their ship through the worst of the anomalies during the exile years. Captain, do you really think this will work? That we can just forgive what they did to us? Cole considered the question. Forgiveness is not about them, Sam. It is about us. Holding on to anger, letting hatred define us, that would make us prisoners forever. We escaped the isolation zone. I do not intend to build another prison inside my own heart. But 60% of us died. My parents died. How am I supposed to just forget that? You are not supposed to forget. You are supposed to remember and choose to be better anyway. That is what the Hollow Ones taught us. That is what makes humanity special. We have every capacity for hatred and revenge, but we also have the capacity to choose differently. The fleet reached the system. Human engineers worked alongside council scientists, applying technology that seemed like miracles. Slowly, impossibly, the dying star began to brighten. Dead worlds began to show signs of atmosphere. Life was returning to a place that had known only death for 10,000 years. News of the success spread across the galaxy. Other systems requested help. Other species asked to join the effort. The Council, once rigid and secretive, began to open up. The truth about the architects became not a source of shame, but a warning against the dangers of fear and isolation. And humanity, the species that had been exiled to die, became something the galaxy had never seen before. They became healers. On the observation deck of the Horizon's Edge, Captain Cole watched the restored star shine with new light. Dr. Grant, Commander Peters, Engineer Turner, and Pilot Harrison stood with him, the crew that had survived the darkness together. "What now, Captain?" Grant asked. Cole smiled. "Now we keep going. There are more dead systems out there, more worlds that need healing, more species that need to learn that cooperation is stronger than conflict." He turned to face his crew. 50 years ago, the Galactic Council tried to destroy us. They failed. And now we have a choice about what kind of species we want to be. I know what I choose. The Horizon's Edge turned toward the next system, leading a fleet of ships from a dozen different species. Behind them, the restored star of burned bright, a symbol of what was possible when hatred gave way to hope. Humanity had returned from the isolation zone, and the galaxy would never be the same.